money is a big topic these days. I read that a 2023 survey done by Bankrate revealed that concerns about money are taking a toll on Americans, causing it to impact their mental health negatively. And that was 2023. We're in 2024, and the money problems are not going away, let me tell you. Um, Growing up, as I mentioned to my guest earlier, I didn't, or my parents and I didn't discuss money. It was a very personal matter. I grew up in a Dominican household, very, very Latino. And, you know, we didn't talk about those things. It was almost like a taboo. Like it's something
Mhm.
you don't talk about, especially outside the home. And today I want to get honest, like really honest and real about, money and finance and securing our financial future, which I think we want to secure our physical health, but I think our financial health is just, it's at the top of the priority list. And hopefully by the time we are done today, you will feel more comfortable with the subject and maybe talk to your partner or your son or your daughter, because I have a 21-year-old and I have been talking to her about money since she was like old enough to understand.
Mhm.
So hopefully by the end, we will both have learned some things. I have tons to learn. Now, to help me dissect this complicated topic, I've invited a knowledgeable and experienced professional who is quite versed in this subject and so many others. Scarlett Joyce Rojas is a money mindset expert with a long career in investment and banking. She's a licensed investment advisor, broker, who brings a psychological approach to wealth building, which I absolutely love because, we're going to discuss it, but our relationship with money, oof, that's where it all begins. Scarlett is a best-selling author of 31 badass money mindset affirmations, which I love, and has been featured in the New York Post, Bankrate, and other platforms. She is also a speaker on the stages for JP Morgan and LPL Finance.
Mhm.
She was raised by immigrant parents herself, like a lot of us
Mhm.
listening, and like myself, I can only speak for myself. She understands the struggles of being a single mom.
Mhm.
And I just got chills because it's so hard. Today, she owns Money Mindset Wealth Management, an investment firm fusing behavioral sciences with financial tactics to improve um, just our knowledge and help us break barriers that hinder us from creating our own wealth. Hi, Scarlett. How are
Hi.
you? That was a mouthful, and
That
I
was
had to abbreviate it.
that was a lot. I think you got the long version of my bio. So
Thank you so much for being here. It's one of my favorite topics
Mhm.
in my personal life as an entrepreneur, as a single mom. But I think it's also something that makes me a little uncomfortable, and I think it does for a
Mhm.
lot of us. And
Mhm.
I wanted to go back to something I said earlier. I talked about, how we hear this, what is, that question, what is your relationship with money? I
Mhm.
I want to talk a little bit about that. I want you to explain to us what first of all, what does that mean and
Mhm.
how it gets in the way of our wealth mindset.
Nice. Well, thank you for the question. I'm excited to be here. And
Mm.
so our relationship with money starts when we're small, when we're children. And what happens is that there's certain things that happen when we're kids that are ironed in as the years pass. So we may think that certain things, certain ways about us happened because of, let's say, a divorce, right? That's not the case. It actually happened when you were a kid, and the experiences that you had during your lifetime into adulthood ironed in those subconscious belief systems that you may not even know are there. So I'll give you an example. With me personally, I grew up in a low income household. My dad was a carpenter and my mom was an at home mom. And I constantly heard, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. And anything that I wanted, I always heard no. So, because of that, in my child mind, I had told myself, I had made a decision that I'm not one of them. And who's one of them? It's one of the kids that got the things that they wanted, that lived in the suburbs, that could leave their bike outside and not get it stolen, that had ballet classes, piano classes, everything that I wanted and I couldn't have. I wasn't one of them. But what happened with that thought process is that it held me back from being as successful as I could faster. It was only later when I realized, hey, this is happening in people's mind. And if it's happening in people's minds, and it's happening in mine, that's when I was able to just shoot right through that glass ceiling that had been created by the experiences of my childhood. Those are your subconscious belief systems that are implanted, and then you carry that with yourself. And I see it in two things, very big: money and relationships. Those are the two biggest things where subconscious belief systems can either make you or break you.
So, just to give us a better visual, what does
Mhm.
a healthy relationship with money look like?
That is your ability to be able to grow wealth and continue to use money in a healthy way without guilt, for example. So it could look very different for you than for somebody else. One of the things that I see a lot of is either I see somebody just be a gunner, right? They're just like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. And they ignore every other part of their life. There's a reason that they're doing that. Something must have happened in their past, right? Is that a healthy relationship with money? Some people may say yes, because that person's successful and they have everything they want. But do they? Do they
Mm.
have the friendships around them? Do they have the time that they want with their children? Do they have that? Then you have this other type of person that's like, oh, I don't, that's not my style. I I want more time with family, or money's not important to me. I don't think that's a healthy relationship with money either. There's
I've
a balance.
and I've heard
Right.
I've heard this before, which drives me insane. I've heard someone close to me say money's evil. It's this mentality, like money's evil. And I think
Right.
that is part of what you're talking about. I see it as a tool. I see it as a way of, you know, it gives me, I can speak for myself, more access, more resources. So I see it
Right.
from that perspective. Some people just feel like, well, if you want money, or that's, it's greed. And it's not
It's a
always the
bad thing.
case.
It's
It's a
great.
bad thing.
It's not. It's not always the case, right? So a healthy relationship with money is you being able to, one, know that you can produce it and you can make it. Two, be able to grow wealth. Three, be able to feel good around it and about it and not have this guilt and this bad feeling about it, because I really don't think that that's good for you or your children, because we pass down our thought patterns to our children.
Absolutely. And, it's because we're talking about our relationship with money. It's really difficult to see light in
Hmm.
the dark. It's
Hmm.
challenging to visualize wealth, to visualize what we're talking about when we're drowning in debt.
Right.
So, where does someone begin making that shift? Because I think until you make that mental shift, you
Hmm.
can't really move forward in a healthy way. So where do we
Yeah.
begin to sort of shift from scarcity,
Hmm.
to wealth? How do we do that? Where does it all start?
I think it all starts with awareness and being really real with yourself. And I think that that's one of the things
Mm,
that people don't want to do. They don't want to be real. They procrastinate it.
mm,
And they have something what I call ostrich syndrome. So they could be in debt And then they'll be like, nothing's happening. Let me just put these bills inside my drawer and act like nothing's happening. That doesn't make anything better. So step one is to really look around you. Look around you and say, is this what I want? Is this what I want for myself? Is this what I want for my kids? Is this the life that I've wanted to build? When I was 10, did I want this life or did I want something different? And be honest with yourself, because that's really going to tell you. You create everything around you. You're
Mm.
choosing everything around you every single day. And if you are living in a situation that you do not like, change it. And
And I
step
think,
one to changing it is becoming real with yourself and saying, you know what? This isn't what I want. What do I do to change it?
well, it's that denial, right? Some people say, well, wealth comes down to luck or privilege. And I think that,
Absolutely not.
have you heard that though?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And it's not true. It's not
So let's
true.
say I agree. I've seen people come from not I mean, we've all seen it, right? We've seen
Yeah.
people come from nothing and build wealth in different ways. Some people have a
Yeah.
gift, gifts
Hmm.
for, we see the athletes, we see the celebrities, which by the way, 1% of Hollywood. We see
Hmm.
in the finance world, we see a lot of wealth.
Hmm.
And there are people
Hmm.
who are building blocks and building their own wealth. And I
Hmm.
think it's becoming more and more important, especially I think as women, we need to start
Hmm.
educating ourselves and learning about how do we get there. So you mentioned being
Hmm.
real, being honest, which you're right. I
Hmm.
think it's one of the most difficult things to do in every aspect of our lives. So let's say now I'm getting real with my money. I'm looking at my accounts, which are probably in the red.
Hmm.
I'm looking at my credit cards. I'm looking at all these things, which I can tell you as a single
Hmm.
mom, it's overwhelming. It's almost suffocating. Where do I go from there?
Hmm. So you look at your numbers. That's number one, right? Is we got to look at our belief systems. We got to look at our numbers. We got to look at the actions that we're taking around our numbers, right? And then we have to look at the energy we're bringing around our finances as well. So there's really four, those are my four pillars when I work with anybody. That's what I look at. So number one is you're looking at your numbers and you're saying, okay, I keep getting into credit card debt. But when I get out of debt, I get back into debt. Okay, what's happening there? One of the biggest things that's happening is lack of discipline. Let's keep it real. Lack of discipline, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, I have to feed my kids. No, most of it, if I looked at your credit card statement, not you per se, but maybe you per se. So like if I looked at your credit card statement, I'd be finding things that it's just like, did you really need this? So it's a lack of discipline, and that's what we don't see, right? We look at a LeBron and we're like, oh, he's just freakishly strong and he's big, but no one sees the hours and days that he puts in to his practice, right? So that's where the discipline comes in for us. So that's one. Knowing your numbers and having discipline around them and having a plan, a financial strategy. If you don't know what is going to happen with every dollar that's coming in, if it doesn't have a plan, then it's just going to go everywhere.
Oh.
So it's important to say, okay, what do I want to build? So exactly how much is going to go there and how much is going to go towards paying debt and how much is going to go towards, college education or whatever it is that you want for your children. So knowing your numbers, creating a plan is big. Then looking at your belief systems is another piece. And that's the easy way to do that is to just catch yourself thinking certain things. For example, I'll share a personal one with me is in the past when I'd walk into like a really nice mall or a really nice store that's like very expensive, I would immediately feel like I didn't belong.
Mm.
And so I had to ask myself that, like, wait a minute, why do I feel that way? Why do I feel that way? And it was this old mindset of myself that I'm not one of them, right? Or I'm a low income person. So who am I to be here, this imposter syndrome. And so working on your beliefs, because that meant that I needed to work on my beliefs about myself. So beliefs, your numbers, creating a plan. I mentioned energy. The energy you bring to your money is another thing too. And what you do there is you're looking for, am I bringing anxious energy, nervous energy? What is
Discomfort.
money making me feel? Yeah, because that gives you light onto what's happening inside you. And the more fear you have around money, the more you're going to attract things that are going to give you more fear around money.
Oof. It's incredible how our mind, I mean, it's powerful. It can take
Very
us,
powerful.
to incredible heights, but it can hold us back in so many different ways. And you
100%.
wouldn't think of that relationship, that sort of psychology with money. And it's real because
Right.
when you mentioned going into the store, like a luxury store and thinking, wow, I shouldn't be here. I can't even, dish out the whatever, 500 or $1,000 for this. What am I doing here? And instead of seeing it something like, oh,
Right.
this is inspiring, this is, and you, for everyone's different. Not saying that you should inspire for
Yeah.
that, aspire for that, but it's just that feeling of, I don't belong. This is not for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is that, when I was walking into these places, I could afford those things, but I still felt like I didn't
Mhm.
belong. So it was because it was something that had been ingrained in me. So then I had to look at, okay, what is it that I still believe about myself? And I need to shift that belief and see myself for who I am now and let go of that past.
Well, it's definitely relatable. Now, I read that women, I think, and the numbers can skew, make an average
Mhm.
of 16% less than men, about.
Mhm. Mhm.
And in some
Mhm.
homes, I have just experienced, um, most of the finances usually, and every home is different, will go to the man. He'll
Mhm.
bring in the bacon,
Mhm.
and the woman's salary, in some cases, because we are making more money nowadays. In some cases the women make less,
Mhm.
and sometimes we feel like, ah, finances, let him do it. It's too complicated, it's too stressful. He knows what to do, he knows how to invest our
Yeah.
money, he knows, how to grow it, and where the bills should be paid. And I think
Right.
that we need to just continuously get more involved in the finances at home. I think it's incredibly important.
Mhm.
And even as a 21-year-old, I tell my daughter, when you get to that point, make sure you are involved, make sure that you educate yourself, because even having a partner, things happen. And then you're sort
Mhm.
of left in the dust trying to figure out, oh my God, like, where do I pay the mortgage? Where do I pay,
Right.
where are my accounts? What's in them? What's the debt
Right.
ratio, and you're lost. And that's a
Mhm.
very, very scary thing. Can you offer some insight on how we can
Mhm.
empower ourselves more and transform that fear of money into something powerful and positive? Because I do believe that we can do that.
Mhm. Yeah, so there's different reasons why a woman may not want to be part of the finances of their household. One of them might be fear. One of them might be where it's like, you know what, I don't want to mess it up, right? So I'm just going to let him do it. Plus, I really don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to let him do it, right? Another reason might be this lackadaisical attitude, right? It's just like, let him handle it. That's cool, right? So whatever your reasoning is, you need to understand that. And you're right. If something happens to him, you're left holding the bag. And then those are the women that are in my office, and I'm looking through so many paperworks and statements and trying to figure out where the money is. You don't want to be in that position, right? But you also don't want your children learning to be in that position. And if if you want to be able to say, okay, I'm going to now have this conversation with my spouse or with my partner and say, I'd like to be part of the finances, that right there is empowering. No one's saying that you have to be the one paying the bills, but to say, hey, I want to see what it is that we want to create this year. What do we want to build for this year? Everything comes down to money. Whatever vacation you want to go on, it's going to be money. Whatever school you want your kid to go to, money. So money is a very important thing. And so I think that one way of doing it is to say, I really want to learn about how we're positioned in our finances. And I want to be a little bit more responsible with the finances. So I really want you to teach me this. I really want to be part of it. That way you come to your partner, not in an offensive way where it's just like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And my friend told me that you could probably dip and I won't know where the money is. And if we get divorced, I don't know what you have. That's not the way to do it. But if you come and you say, hey, we're a team and I want to be a helpful part of that team and I want to know in case anything happens to either of us, what do we have? How does this look like? How do I add value to this? Is there something I can do that you need me
And
to
it
do?
sounds so simple. You just have to want to do it. So yeah,
You just have
yeah,
to want to do it,
absolutely.
right? Yeah, and you just want and not procrastinate it. The thing is like, you're Dominicans, you probably heard this, is "Cárgame las
No me
puertas,"
sé ese.
no?
What does it
Like, that
mean?
means no, in Ecuador, we say, okay, cárgame las puertas. Like, that's like, if as long as you have somebody
Mm.
doing it for you, you're just gonna let them hold it. You don't need to do anything. Don't be that person. I see things in this way where if you're running a kingdom, there's a king and there's a queen, right? A queen doesn't sit back and do
Ooh, that's
nothing.
true.
She doesn't. She adds
That's right.
on, right? She adds value. She lets the king do his thing, but at the same time, she'll say, okay, I love that. What if we do this? Right? There's value being
I
added
love
by
that.
the queen. And that's where, at least with me in my life, that's the way I would want to handle my relationship. It's like, okay, there is two people to this team. It's not just a him thing because the guy gets tired too. I have lots of clients that are men and they're like, gosh, I wish she would do something a little bit more.
Well,
So,
no, I think, taking responsibility is so important. And it's important not just for that
yeah,
partnership, but for yourself. I think there's a different feeling when you are involved in the decisions and just know what's happening inside, that
yeah,
household. Um
right. And you can
Absolutely.
contribute. You can contribute. Maybe not necessarily money, because maybe if you're an at-home mom or whatever, maybe not necessarily money, but you can contribute and say, hey, I love that idea. I'm thinking maybe we can do this, or you
Absolutely.
can always
Now,
contribute.
I cannot let you get away without asking you about this. So, you're a
Hmm.
licensed
Hmm.
investment advisor? Okay. So,
Yes, licensed financial
I
advisor.
think
Hmm.
not just for me, I think a lot of our community is probably wondering. There are so many terms that are thrown around. There are tons of financial products
Hmm.
out there. And, I have gotten
Hmm.
overwhelmed, but I have a 401k and, I've been doing this for a long time. But the other day I sat with someone and he talked to me about my financial planning and about life insurance. And let me tell you something. I was a little overwhelmed because he started throwing all these words around. Now we have the high yield
Hmm.
savings to,
Hmm.
earn more on our savings because I have looked at the savings and it's zero. It's flat, a regular savings. So there's life
Hmm.
insurance, 401k, our IRA, high yield savings, all these products, not to mention the stock market. That's a whole different episode. My question is, if we're starting this process, let's say, I'm starting from scratch, but I am beginning to think about how do I start building, because it's You have to lay a foundation. You have to, sort of put the bricks up.
Mhm.
How do I build a financial healthy future? Where do I start? Because all of these things are so overwhelming. Can you maybe suggest two things that we can start at least maybe researching or asking questions about, or just sort of, it's almost like planting those seeds because it's a lot of information.
Mm,
Where do I start with all these products? Because they're all important. It's just, ooh, it's a lot. It's a lot.
yeah. I think that
Okay.
instead of thinking product,
Oh,
think process. So, so my first step would be I'm going to look at what comes in, right? Income, and what goes out. And then I want to look at everything that's going out and say what's needed and what's not really needed, right? What's discretionary and what's a must. And then I want to look at, okay, how much of the discretionary do I want to begin investing or saving? Okay. And what am I saving for? Okay. So that's creation, right? So that's a process. Then you want to look at what debt do I have? And if you do have credit card debt, that's like the worst debt you can have. So you want to start saying, okay, maybe some of that money that I'm using for discretionary is going to go now towards paying these credit cards down. Okay. Because paying the minimum on a credit card is like the worst thing you can do. Even like some people will be like, oh, the minimum is 70, but I'm paying 100. Good for you. Come on. You can definitely challenge yourself to do more than that. Right. So then begin paying your debt down. That's a process because nowhere in the market really can I promise you 29%. But the credit card companies are charging you 29%. So there's 29% leaving the back door. Meanwhile, here you are hustling, trying to make more money. No, pay that stuff down. That's one of the first steps you can do. Look at your income, look what's going out, look at what's discretionary and what's really needed. Take some of that discretionary money and towards put it towards debt or put it towards your goal.
wow.
That's
So
a
you would
process.
say that's where we all need to start.
That's where you start. Yeah, people come to me and they're like, "What product?"
Mm,
It's not the product.
wow.
It's the plan.
And the other thing I have, and I'll throw it in there because it's just 2 cents, but I have been told
Mhm.
start with the lowest balance paid out and then work on the
Mhm.
big
Mhm.
balance, because once you have that small balance out of the way, you can focus on that bigger balance and just sort of close your eyes and pay aggressively.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, and there's different ways, right? So there's different ways to skin a cat, right? Why you'd want to skin a cat, no one knows, but that's the saying. So you can do it that way. You can start paying the one that's the lowest debt. What that does is it makes you have a
Mm.
win. That's where that came from. So it's like you pay down that debt and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I paid that one down," right? And now I'm going to take the money that I was paying to that and I'm going to add it on to the other one that I have to pay, right? But that's a quick win. Then there's another strategy where you look at the one that's charging you the most and you're paying that one down because that one's the most expensive, right? But because that typically takes a long
Right.
time, you're not getting that quick win, right? So there's different strategies, but you can do it anyway. The whole point is pay more than what's expected. And as soon as you're done paying one card, use exactly that payment, okay, that you were putting towards that card towards the next card or the next goal, whatever it is. But what people mess up in is that as soon as they're done paying their credit card debt, they're like, yay, that means now I can go on a trip. No, that means now you're going to take that same $400 you were putting and you're going to now put it towards the goal that you wanted because all you did was get
Ugh.
yourself to neutral by paying down your debt. Now you're going to build.
I have to tell you, well, I'm looking at you
Yeah.
because that it's like you have, three heads right now, because I know that there's so many people going through this. So many people going through this.
I know, I know. And you look at me like I have three heads because you're just like, oh my God, it's like so much, right?
Are
It's
you
so much
kidding?
to think about. It's so much to do. I feel so
You
far
should have
away
seen
from
when I
where I
sat
want
down
to
to do my
go.
life insurance. I
And
was like, what? I can't even think that far.
yeah, yeah. No, you can't think that far. And the thing is, like, you have to go in steps because people, unfortunately, in the advisor world, in the finance world, everyone's looking to push a product. Sorry, there's no product that's a magic bullet. It is the process. And that's what people don't
You
like to
just
hear because they would rather spend their money on something that says, hey, you can lose weight and have all the muscles you want in 30 days instead of hearing, guess what? You're probably going to have to go to the gym 5 times a week for the next year to get what you want. No one wants to hear that. Everybody wants a quick fix, but
it
that's not the
takes
way wealth
time, it
happens.
takes discipline, like you said. I could talk to you all day about this. I
Discipline.
could, but I know you are busy. One one of the things that I
Uh-huh.
love to do at the end of interviews is share a quote, mantra, affirmation, piece of advice, something to leave the community with. And as you are the author of
Hmm.
best-selling 31 badass money mindset affirmations, I'd like you to share your absolute favorite
Hmm.
affirmation. What has it done to you, for you, and how has it helped? Just how has it helped you in your journey?
Okay.
Ooh.
I am here to make an impact. I have a powerful purpose. That's one of my favorite affirmations. And it is because I know that I have a God-given purpose. I truly believe that we all have a God-given purpose. And we think that we're here by accident. We're not here by accident. So that to me has been impactful because I align what I do with God, right? So I know I have a God-given purpose and I'm truly here to make an impact in whatever way I can. And I'm here to make an impact to others and with others. I'm not in competition with you. I am in creation with you. And I think that if we were to all think that way, there would be less depression, there'd be less suicide, there would be less you know, treating other people badly because, you know, we're thinking you're the enemy. You're not the enemy. So that's
I love that.
my favorite
Scarlett, thank you so
affirmation.
very much for being here today. You are amazing. I follow you on Instagram. I think your range, as I said earlier, of topics is just it's so diverse and it's so helpful. So thank you for taking time to share with us. Please make sure you tell our listeners how they can learn more about you and follow you and just get more of your gems.
Yeah, so you can follow me on my website, moneymindsetadvisors.com. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. And one thing that I do want to offer your listeners is there is no cookie cutter way of making it happen. Okay, so what the question I typically get is, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
Or my gosh, where do I start? I feel like this is so overwhelming. So there's no cookie cutter way. So what I offer is a quick phone call. All right. So a 20-minute money call. And that is going to be the easiest way for me or one of my team members to say, okay, I see where you're at. And this is what your next step is. It's all you need. You need the next step. You don't need the whole map.
Love
You
it.
just
And
need
wait,
the
how do
next
we
couple
find out
steps.
more about this offer? How do we acquire it?
Well, I'll send you
Perfect.
the link and then maybe you could put it right there in the podcast and they
I
get
love it.
direct to
Scarlett,
either
thank
me or
you
one of
so
my
much.
team
I'm really
members.
grateful for you. Thank you. And thank you, listeners,
Thank
our
you,
community, for
Yvette.
joining us on this episode filled with gems with Scarlett, of the AW Confidential podcast. Talk to you soon. Bye.